back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, April 23rd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. Well, a few things happened yesterday. So the first one was the Chiefs extended a couple of guys. They extended their general manager. They extended their head coach, as well as their president as well. So we'll get into that in a second. Andy Reid, of course, Brett Veach, and Mark Donovan. So we'll get into all that in a second. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Matt Ryan announcing his retirement officially. Last season, spent the whole year in the broadcast booth for CBS, and did have, there was speculation that he had interest in, when the Jets were dealing with their issues at quarterback when Aaron Rodgers went down, that he was one of those quarterbacks that was reaching out to them, as well as Carson Wentz. But he ended up staying in the booth and officially announced his retirement from football. So we'll talk about that in the second segment. Then in the third part of the show, with the Jets, like I just mentioned, Zach Wilson did indeed get traded to the Denver Broncos. So we will talk about that in the third part of the show. And then for the final part of the show, we'll talk about Tyreek Hill and him praising his head coach, Mike McDaniel, for something that happened in the playoff game against the Chiefs. So we'll get into that as well. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is actually talking about the Chiefs and them extending a few guys. So like I said, they extended their team president, general manager, and their head coach, Andy Reid, and basically extended Andy Reid and Brett Veach through 2029. So that's, a long time from now. That's 5 years down the line, which, again, there was a lot of speculation on whether Andy Reid was going to retire or not. There were some rumors floating around that, maybe that was coming, and it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon. And I know throughout the offseason, I talked about how Mahomes is not going to have Andy Reid. He's not going to have Travis Kelce forever. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when those two guys ultimately retire. And at least for the moment, for Andy Reid, he's going to be around for a while. With Travis Kelce, he's nearing the end. He's closer to the end than Andy Reid is, because I don't think Travis Kelce is playing till 2029. I don't think that's happening. I think you're going to see Travis Kelce. You're going to see Travis Kelce play for a few more seasons, but I think he's eventually going to call it a career. You're not going to see Travis Kelce playing into his 40s. That's not happening. But at least for right now, the Chiefs are bringing the band back together for years to come. Because you're going to have Mahomes. You signed him to his massive contract. You extended Andy Reid. You extended Chris Jones, so Chris Jones is going to still be around for a while on defense, which is huge. And Travis Kelce's not going anywhere. it's either he's going to stick with the Chiefs or he's going to retire, which he's going to retire at some point. Like I said, I think between now and 2029, I think Travis Kelce will retire within that time frame. Now, whenever that comes up, we'll see. Because he did play hurt during the regular season. Then he looked like the Travis Kelce of old in the postseason. But I don't want to be talking about this because, again, this what we're watching is amazing. And I know a lot of people are not fans of it because they're sick of it. But it's really, we're witnessing greatness right now with this team. And they're keeping everybody together. Not just, on the football field, but up top as well. They got stability. And that's going to continue. And again, any speculation on Andy Reid retiring anytime soon, that's out the window. Because when when this contract is up, I'm going to be almost 30 years old, which is scary to think about. But it's what the Chiefs did was good, obviously, bringing these guys, extending these guys. So with the Chiefs, of course, under the leadership of Andy Reid, the Chiefs have achieved a combined record between the regular season and the postseason, a record of 100 wins and 34 losses. They have secured 7 consecutive AFC West division titles, 4 AFC Championship game wins, and 6 straight AFC title game appearances. And Reid has a career record of 284 wins, including postseason, and is one of 5 coaches in NFL history to win at least 3 Super Bowls. And definitely he's going to win more. I think it's, I don't want to say it's safe to say, but I think it's very likely that he will win another one with this team. And I actually didn't realize this, but Brett Veach started his NFL career as a coaching intern for Reid's Eagles in 2004 and became the Chiefs general manager in 2017. I didn't know that. Donovan joined the Chiefs. Now this is the team president. Mark Donovan joined the Chiefs in 2009 as chief operation officer and later became team president. The Chiefs' recent Super Bowl win marks their 4th overall with 3 victories achieved under the leadership of Reid, Veach, and Donovan. And like I said, stability is a big thing for them going forward. And that's what they have. Now they got the guys up top and Andy Reid extended. You got Patrick Mahomes extended, Chris Jones extended. I mean, this team is ready. This team's ready to roll going into next year and beyond that. And I just wanted to talk about what a couple things or some things Andy Reid had to say, if I can find it within the article that I had, because there was a quote from him. If I can find it. So he said, "I'm incredibly grateful to Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt and the entire Hunt family for giving me the opportunity to lead this historic franchise. Over the last 11 years, Tammy and I have enjoyed calling Kansas City our home. The community has embraced us. We've watched our family grow, including having all 12 grandkids during our time here. On the field, there have been so many people that have contributed to our success and Super Bowls, and I'm grateful to the players, coaches, and staff that have all invested their time in the process. I'd also like to thank my agent, Bob Lamont. Chiefs Kingdom is a special place, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be here." And I mean, listen, it's been a successful tenure in Kansas City for Andy Reid, and that's going to continue. Now, you could say that Patrick Mahomes has a lot to do with that, which is very true. But Patrick Mahomes stepped into a good situation. Sat behind Alex Smith, did start the final week of the regular season back in 2017, and then became the full-time starter once they traded Alex Smith. And Patrick Mahomes, from the first game where he was the full-time starter, just never looked back. And he's got 3 Super Bowls, got a couple of MVPs. I mean, he has a Hall of Fame career right now. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's only been a starter now, since 2018. He could retire right now and go to the Hall of Fame. That's just how good his career has been. And he's got his haters, of course, which everybody does. Even I have some. But it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes go hand in hand. Now again, Andy Reid has won a lot of games even before Patrick Mahomes, but he never was able to win the game. The big game. And that ended up happening. Once Patrick Mahomes got there, Patrick Mahomes brought that Chiefs offense to new heights. And 3 Super Bowls later, look at them. They're a dynasty. And Andy Reid has a lot to do with that. Patrick Mahomes has a lot to do with that. And now they're looking to three-peat. And they could very well do that. Now, there's going to be teams that are going to stand in their way and try to stop them. Are they going to be able to? Like I always say, we'll have to wait and see. Because the conference is loaded. But you look and you see the struggles that the Chiefs went through. And, well, particularly on offense. And myself and many others thought, yeah, this is probably not going to be the year that they're going to do it. But they did it. Regardless. They weren't as loaded as they have been in years past on offense. No Tyreek Hill. And without Tyreek Hill, who we'll talk about later in the show, they went on to win back-to-back Super Bowls. And they're, you think they're going to be even better on offense next year. And even if they struggle again, does it really matter? Last year showed you that even if they struggle through the regular season, they could still win the whole thing. And that's exactly what they did. And through it all, they were still able to, weather the storm and get through the tough regular season. And go on another playoff run and win the whole thing. And Patrick Mahomes won his first 2 road playoff games. That was something we've never seen. Patrick Mahomes play, because they're always playing at home. How is Patrick Mahomes going to play on the road in the playoffs? Which I think everybody knew he was going to be fine. But it was something new, and he finally did it and beat the Bills and beat the Ravens. And if the Chiefs get home field advantage again next year, well, who's going in there and beating them? Joe Burrow. That's the only one that's the only player that's done it. That's still playing. Everybody's calling for Tom Brady to come back, and there was, Tom Brady. There was that video of him running, working out. So maybe he's gearing up to come back late in the season, pull a Joe Flacco, and come back late in the season. But listen, it's going to be tough for anyone to try to beat this team. And like I said, they got stability, extending the guys from up top down. They're a machine, and they're going to look to continue their success in 2024. And they want to be able to three-peat. And like I've been saying, they got a great shot to do that. Now, again, no NFL team has ever done that. So if they're able to achieve that, that would be unbelievable. But it's a long season and things happen. So who knows? But again, if the Chiefs struggle on offense like they did in 2023 and they still make the playoffs, well, don't count them out. It was like the Patriots, too. Don't count them out either until they're officially out. And like I said, the Chiefs, despite trading Tyreek Hill, back-to-back Super Bowls and looking to win a third one. And that's a credit to the organization as a whole, being able to draft well, and also having Patrick Mahomes, which they drafted. And like I said, looking to the three-peat in 2024, and they've talked about it a lot. So we'll see if they end up doing it. Draft is on Thursday, so they're going to be looking to add more players as well. Well, the day one of the draft is on Thursday. So we'll see what they end up doing with their first pick. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we'll talk about another quarterback. We're going to talk about Matt Ryan, him announcing his retirement, get into talking about his career, and give you my thoughts on his career. And that is what we will discuss when we come back from our first break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Matt Ryan, him announcing his retirement after 15 seasons in the NFL. Most of that was with the Falcons. He did spend that 1 year with the Indianapolis Colts. Don't forget about that. And I think he kind of wants to forget about it. But he also did play for the Colts as well. And he released a video message thanking the Falcons organization. I think he signed a one-day contract to retire as a Falcon. So that was nice. But yeah, again, it's another quarterback, I grew up watching and many others did, that's officially retiring. And it's sad. It's sad because it's really, changing of the guard. You got all these young quarterbacks now. The Falcons, they were hoping Desmond Ridder was going to be the guy, but he's out. So now Kirk Cousins you bring in $180 million later, with $100 million guaranteed. And he's going to be the guy moving forward. And for the Falcons, you hope that with him and the young weapons that they have, that they could take that next step and be a really good team in 2024, which I think they will be a good team with Kirk Cousins. But, we'll see how it goes. But with Matt Ryan, he finished his career with almost 63,000 passing yards, 381 touchdowns, 183 receptions, and a career passer rating of 93.6. He made 4 Pro Bowls. He was one All-Pro team and holds the 2016 MVP and Offensive Player of the Year awards. That 2016 season was really good for him, that MVP season. And actually, something I haven't done in a while, and that is a graphic, because we do have Matt Ryan's career accolades as well. I made sure to include that today. So let's get we'll talk about the tips towards the end of the segment. But so this is Matt Ryan's career here. So in 2016, played in all 16 games, an 11-5 record, almost 5,000 yards passing for him, 38 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And they finished as the 2 seed that season. The Cowboys were the 1, and they lost to the Packers. The Falcons had a bye. That was back when, the 1 and the 2 had byes. Now we don't have that anymore because they expanded the playoffs. But yeah, they beat the Seahawks and they dismantled the Packers. That was upsetting to watch as an Aaron Rodgers fan. But the Falcons, again, that offense was really good that season. You had Julio Jones. I almost said Calvin Ridley, but that was actually Taylor Gabriel. You had Austin Hooper and Mohamed Sanu back when he was a good wide receiver, back when he was productive. That was a good team. And also you had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman running the ball out of the backfield. That was a good Falcons team, and they got to the Super Bowl, and we all know what happened there. But you have that, and then 2012, that was another good year for them. They were 13-3. They were the 1 seed that season. Matt Ryan, the interceptions actually were high, 14 interceptions, but 32 touchdowns, 4,719 yards passing, and they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl that year, and they collapsed against the 49ers. The 49ers had a comeback win against them, so they lost that game. And then also, I think they were the 1 seed again in 2010, and that was when the Packers, as a 6 seed, went in there, and they beat them. And Matt Ryan had 28 touchdowns to 9 interceptions that season. So Matt Ryan, when it came to the big games, he wasn't very successful there. But I think for the majority of his career, he had a solid career. He put up some good numbers in certain years. I mean, you look at some of the other years where the Falcons weren't good. The interceptions were high, but I mean, I think, in the beginning of his career, the Falcons were always a competitive team. They made the playoffs basically every year, but they just couldn't get it done. They had the chance, like I said, in 2016 against the Patriots, but again, we all know what happened there. So that begs the question, though: is Matt Ryan a Hall of Famer? And I mean, I feel like he'll get in, but I think him not having a Super Bowl, I think, really does hurt his chances. But I mean, I feel like we live in an age now where, like, basically everybody gets in for the most part. So I think he will get in at some point. It might just take some time, but we'll see. But one thing I saw, CBS's Instagram account posted this, so I wanted to mention that. I hope I didn't delete it because I had. Oh yeah, here it is. So he is one of 5 quarterbacks in NFL history with 60,000 passing yards and an NFL MVP. Tom Brady. He joins Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and Dan Marino. That's good company. It's very good company. Now again, I don't think that's going to be make or break for him to make the Hall of Fame, but when you're on a list like that, I mean, that definitely helps your case out. And like I said, I think he will get in, but it's tough because especially without him having a Super Bowl. But let me know what you guys think about that. If Matt Ryan deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I mean, I feel like he will get in, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me saying that. So I wanted to. So I know Matt Ryan had a couple of things to say. So let me just. I wanted to read some of the quotes from him. Let's see if I can find them. I thought they did have some quotes in here from him. Actually, yeah. Hold on. I think it's this from this article that I have, because he did sign the 1-year contract with the Falcons. So I wanted to. Yeah. So this is what he said. One of the things he said. He said, "It was a hell of a ride. I'm excited to see what's next. This next chapter of life and see where that takes us. But today it's exciting for me because you never have control in this profession of where you're going to start, and I could not have been luckier than that. It was a start here in Atlanta, and it went for 14 years, and now I can bookend it and retire as a Falcon today. So that was nice what he had to say. And then, of course, I did it and someone else did it, bringing up the Super Bowl championship, or the Super Bowl against the Patriots. He says, it hurts. I think that it's one of the things that is always a part of you, right? Falling short of what you ultimately set out to do is tough, but that's life. There's so many things in your life that are going to go that way. You got to pick up and move on. I remember seeing a Winston Churchill quote, success isn't final and failure isn't fatal. What counts is the courage to continue on. And then this is something that, and then Arthur Blank had some comments on him as well. When I was going back and reading these notes and getting ready for today, it amazed me in the 14 years that we were graced with Matt Ryan as our franchise quarterback and leader, really what he's accomplished. This is an exceptional football player, but probably more exceptional as a human being, as a husband, as a father, and as a great friend. He's been a beloved friend to me for that period of time, to my whole family. They view Matt as kind of one of their own, and he is one of our own. He's certainly one of Atlanta's own. It's a great honor for me to be here today to represent our franchise and having Matt end his career as an Atlanta Falcon. And went through a few head coaches during his time. I forgot about Mike Smith, 2008 to 2014. Dan Quinn from 2015 to 2020. And then, of course, Arthur Smith was the final head coach for Matt Ryan. And then, actually, also Raheem Morris as well. Was the interim coach in 2020 after Quinn was let go. And then he went to Indianapolis and finished with a 4-7-1 record there. So, yeah, I mean, you were kind of hoping that Matt Ryan would eventually get that Super Bowl ring, but that just never ended up happening. And, Indianapolis, was desperate for quarterbacks. I mean, with Andrew Luck retiring, they went to Carson Wentz, and then they went to Matt Ryan, and they actually did beat the Chiefs that year. They got off to that bad again, they didn't finish with a great record, but they did beat the Chiefs. I think it was, week 3? And you're like, oh, maybe the Colts will turn it around now. It ended up not happening. But, again, Matt Ryan is, again, one of those guys that, during the 2010s, you grew up watching and, was a solid quarterback, like I said. And there were some rough years in there. But, again, one of those guys that, he played the game the right way and, was surrounded by great players. I mean, whether it was Julio Jones and Tony Gonzalez, Roddy White. It's just, the Falcons were just that team that never took that next step. But, like I said, Matt Ryan played the game the right way. He's going to be missed on the field. He's going to continue to be a broadcaster with CBS. Does a good job there. And, yeah, I wish him nothing but the best in the next chapter of his life as we have another player stepping away from the game. You had Jason Kelsey. You had Aaron Donald retiring. Well, Fletcher Cox as well. And Matt Ryan is another one of those players that is going to be stepping away. So, it's sad. It's sad. You got, more guys walking away, but it happens. That's just inevitable at this point. So, but like I said, wish him nothing but the best in retirement, and like I said, going to continue to be a broadcaster, and so you'll still see him, just not on the football field. But so that let me know what you guys think about Matt Ryan, his career. What was your favorite Matt Ryan moment? And do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about another quarterback that was traded that I talked about yesterday, and he ended up getting traded, of course, when I finished doing the show, and that's Zach Wilson. The Jets finally traded him, and he is going to be going to the Denver Broncos. So I'll talk about that when we come back from our second break of the show. But before I do that, just want to remind you guys again, and I got to do this now. So give me a second. Oh, wait. There we go. All right, so tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show. Makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, yeah, like I said, when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about the Jets trading Zach Wilson to the Broncos. I'll get into that when we return from our second break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Zach Wilson and the Jets trading Zach Wilson to the Denver Broncos. So if you remember yesterday, if you tuned in, if you watched yesterday's show, I did talk about the Jets and Zach Wilson and how they valued him. Well, they looked at him as an asset. And I said, well, it doesn't seem like teams are lining up to trade for him. So it's possible he could be on the team still in 2024. And, well, for the 2024 season. And the other thing, too, that I mentioned was, when talking about the draft, I said, what are the Denver Broncos going to do with their pick? Because they still need a quarterback. It's not going to be Jarrett Stidham that's going to be the starter. And what ended up happening was Zach Wilson ended up getting traded to the Broncos. Now, does that necessarily mean Zach Wilson, he's the starter? No. I mean, he's going to be brought in to compete, to maybe be the starter, have a chance to be the starter. This trade doesn't necessarily mean he's the starter. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the Broncos are out on maybe taking a quarterback. But, at least gives them another option, because I think, so they have Jarrett Stidham, but I think they also have Ben DiNucci, and I don't think Ben DiNucci is going to, be the answer either. But that's that's their options now. Now with Zach Wilson being brought in, you got him, Jarrett Stidham, and Ben DiNucci on the roster. So the exact specifics of the trade. So obviously Zach Wilson was the former number 2 overall pick in the 2021 draft. The trade involves a late round pick swap for the 2024 draft, with the Jets receiving a 6th round pick and the Broncos receiving a 7th round pick. The 6th round pick is the 203rd pick, and the 7th round pick is it's a 256th pick, along with Zach Wilson. And yeah, so the Jets actually ended up trading him. They didn't want to release him, and they ended up getting their wish in trading him eventually, finally finding a trade partner and trading him to Denver. And this finally ends the Zach Wilson saga with the Jets, because it was a messy one. It definitely was. It just got worse and worse as the years went on. And they brought in Aaron Rodgers, and then he gets hurt, and then they're forced to put Zach Wilson back in. And it was bad. And then he ends up getting benched. You had Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian playing. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. And you could say the Jets didn't do right by him which is true. But Zach Wilson also just wasn't very good. And maybe in a change of scenery, he could do better, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, you do see talent there, but is it at that point where he's too far gone, where it's just, can he get better? And is Denver the right spot for him? I mean, the Broncos, they probably figured, well, we need a quarterback. So they well, let's take a chance on him for the time being. But again, I also did say that doesn't necessarily rule out the possibility of them taking one in the draft. Probably not. But yeah, the Broncos quarterback room is not the best. Now, they could probably be looking to next year and finishing with a bad record, because, I mean, with the quarterbacks they have on the team right now, I mean, I don't really expect the Broncos to win a lot of games. Then you probably look to next year to maybe draft one. I mean, I don't really know what the draft class is going to be like for 2025, but maybe that's what they could be focused on, because, like I said, I don't think they're going to win a lot of games with what they currently have. But who knows? Sean Payton is the head coach for now, and he's trying to mold this team in his image. And I don't really expect the Broncos to win a lot of games in 2024. So we'll see what ends up happening from that. But also doesn't help when you have Russell Wilson's cap hit for 2024 and beyond that. But we'll see what they do. But yeah, it just I think for the Jets, this for them and their fan base, I think this is good for them. This gets that, you get that distraction out finally. Because that's really what it was becoming now. It was just a distraction. And now they can just focus on what they have on the roster, who's going to be making an impact. Because Zach Wilson wasn't going to make an impact on this roster unless another injury. So now they got him out, so you don't have to worry about it. But it's just, yeah, it was, again, the Jets, I don't think, did right by him, but also he didn't help himself with some of the things he said. I mean, you go back to, a couple of seasons ago when, the Jets lose that game to the Patriots, and he didn't take accountability after the game. And, yeah, it just, that was the beginning of the end for him, really. Well, that was part of it. Because then you also had, the Jets players wearing the Mike White T-shirts and, really praising him. And it just, it was a mess. It was a mess. And the Jets were really hoping that Aaron Rodgers could have been like a mentor to him. And, Zach Wilson could sit on the sidelines and watch Rodgers do his thing throughout the year and not have to worry about ever taking a snap unless the Jets were up by a lot, or, he takes the final kneel down for a game. But that ended up not happening. Rodgers ended up getting hurt. Supposedly really didn't respond to Zach Wilson after the injury. And Zach Wilson had to play and did not really play well. Had a couple of games where he did play well. One of them they won. One of them they could have won, and that was against the Chiefs. But other than that, it was a lot of bad. A lot of bad. And, again, it was funny how Joe Douglas was talking about wanting to be the organization to become that quarterback factory where they produce good quarterbacks. Well, that just has not been the case. And now you got two quarterbacks. Well, even last year you had two quarterbacks that you brought in from outside the organization, and they weren't very good quarterbacks. Well, and I'm talking about Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, that's different, but he got hurt. But now, you got Rodgers, you got Tyrod Taylor, both from outside the organization. And Tyrod's been a good backup. You know, at least with the Giants, I thought he was decent for him. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer. But eventually, you're going to have to find the next guy because Aaron Rodgers is not going to be around forever. Aaron Rodgers wants to play multiple years, but he's probably not going to be playing beyond, I would say, like 2025. I mean, maybe I'll give him 2 years, this year and next year, but I don't know. I don't know if I could say beyond that. I think I'm being nice by saying 2025. First, we got to get through this season. And if the Jets go out there and they have a good season and Rodgers plays well, then okay, all right, well, I feel better about things going into 2025. But if it's more of the same, then, yeah, the Jets got to find his successor. Because the Packers did. You know, the Packers found it with no problem. Jordan Love just sat behind Aaron Rodgers as he won back-to-back MVPs, and then, 2022 had a down year, but in the Packers, they almost made the playoffs. They ended up missing it. Packers traded him. Jordan Love steps in. There were some growing pains, but seems like he's the guy. Packers got their franchise guy for the next, 10-plus years. So now the Jets, you had Sam Darnold, and, then you got Zach Wilson, and it just has not worked out. So then you trade for Aaron Rodgers. He gets hurt. And again, you're really hoping that Aaron Rodgers can play a full season. And you hope that he does play multiple years, so that does give you time to maybe find his successor and have him sit behind Rodgers until Rodgers eventually hangs it up, and then you can transition over to that. But the problem is that the Jets have not had success with that. So once Rodgers leaves, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Well, I say that, but even with him, last year he gets hurt, and it just derailed the whole season. And it just, again, I was standing right over there when that injury happened, and it just, I was beside myself. I really was when he got hurt. Because, again, I really wanted to see him go out there and show that, hey, I'm still Aaron Rodgers. I could still play. But we never got to see it. The only highlights were you go back to the preseason when he threw the touchdown to Garrett Wilson, and then him running out with the American flag. Those are his highlights as a Jet. That's it. But he's going to be healthy in 2024. Like I said, like I keep saying, I'm going to stay in the minority. Aaron Rodgers is going to do well, and the Jets are going to have a good year. And if they don't, like I said, I'll come on here and I'll tell you I was wrong. But I don't want to be wrong. Because I heard, from family members and, and I think some friends, weren't as optimistic that, it's not going to work out. He's going to get hurt. Something's going to happen. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to hear this. I want him to prove them all wrong. And they ended up being right because he ended up getting hurt. And I felt very foolish. But let's hope that take two in 2024, that's not the case. He goes out there and he plays really well. And when it comes to the Broncos, I mean, I don't have any expectations for Zach Wilson. I think this is good for him that he's in a new spot. But I don't really expect anything from this. Other than you got a chance to compete to be the starter at least for 1 year. And maybe if you go out there and you play well, then your stock goes up and you get another chance. But it's just I don't really expect Zach Wilson to really do anything with the Broncos. But I could be wrong. But I don't think I will be. And also, you see the Broncos' new uniforms, so they'll have new uniforms. Throwbacks from back in the day, when Elway, Shannon Sharp were playing. So those uniforms will be worn in 2024. So I like how they're really leaning into the throwback uniforms. I like the Seahawks. I thought were one of my favorites from 2023, from last year. The Giants, I like their throwbacks. Those I think should be the primary uniforms. I'm a fan of those. I like how they're really leaning into the throwbacks. So now the Broncos are the latest team to do that. So bringing them back for 2024. I like the Patriots too, the red ones. They wore those in week 2. I like those. But yeah, so they'll be repping those. And Zach Wilson will be repping the throwback with the Broncos if he's still with the team. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Zach Wilson trade. You see him revitalizing his career with Denver. Let me know in the comments. So with that being said, now we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill and him praising Mike McDaniel over something that happened in the playoff game against the Chiefs. So that is what we will discuss when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill, him embracing accountability. Again, also, like I said, kind of was praising his coach over something that happened in the Chiefs playoff game. So basically, Tyreek Hill appreciates his head coach, Mike McDaniel's accountability, citing a moment where McDaniel called him out after a play against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I do have the quotes from the article. So it was a play against L'Jarius Sneed on the Chiefs, who's now a member of the Tennessee Titans. The Chiefs, everybody see the play against the Chiefs when he slammed Tyreek Hill on the floor. Now, he recalled this moment. This was on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Like I said, everybody's making appearances on podcasts lately. But yeah, he said, he called me out, meaning Mike McDaniel called him out. He called me out. He's like, Reek, you're supposed to be the best player in the league, and you got this guy putting hands all over you like that. We pay you all this money for what? And Tyreek said, and for me, I love stuff like that. Again, trying to blank out the bad words in this quote, but because I'm going to take that to heart, and I'm going to get better from it. That will never happen to me again in my life, man. If a blank not holding me accountable, I feel like I'm not going to be able to get better. Obviously, the coaches can bypass that and just be like, he'll get better from it. But if he's not saying nothing, the other guys in the locker room are going to look at it as, oh, if Reed can do it, I can do it. And that's not getting the team better. I need everybody to get better. Jalen Waddle, I got him under my wing trying to teach him. I want everybody to get paid. Everybody deserves it. And to be honest, I actually like what he said, because a lot of receivers in the NFL would probably take it the wrong way. Definitely would take it the wrong way. I mean, no offense, but some of the receivers are kind of are divas in the NFL, and you can't really discipline players like you could in the past, because now with the contracts and all that, it just they baby the players, and that goes for a lot of sports, not just football. So to be honest, it's kind of refreshing when you hear Tyreek Hill, a player that is making a lot of money and is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, because I know that was a conversation we had in our production meeting one week, was who's the best wide receiver in the NFL? And a couple of people said Tyreek Hill. Now, I said Justin Jefferson, but I did say if Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers were still playing together, I would say Devontae Adams. But a couple of people did say Tyreek Hill, and rightfully so. He is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And was trying to help me win my, fantasy championship, and unfortunately he got hurt, and that kind of derailed my whole season, and I ended up being one and done in the playoffs. But that's besides the point. I have mentioned that many times before, and I'll continue to mention that because I am still very bitter over that loss. And okay, so back to what I was saying. Tyreek Hill is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and again, like I said, kind of refreshing when you hear a player say that he wants someone that will hold you accountable. And Mike McDaniel seems to be one of those coaches that does that. And you look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid has to put some of his players in their place, like Travis Kelce. I mean, I think it was the game on Christmas where Kelce threw his helmet and it went flying, and then somebody picked it up and was going to give it back to him, and Andy Reid's like, "Not so fast! Do not do that. He's not coming out for this play." Then you had Kelce body checking him in the Super Bowl. That was crazy, but Andy Reid's another coach that I could think of that also holds you accountable. I mean, and I think of Brian Dable screaming at Daniel Jones on the sidelines, after a bad play. But again, with Mike McDaniel, yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill's a star player, and bringing his contract into it, yeah, I mean, you're getting paid all this money, you can't have a player doing that to you. Now, again, could Tyreek Hill be lying about what exactly was said? It's possible. That's another thing too. But either way, I think I think he is there's some truth there where you're embracing that criticism and you're being held accountable. And I think that only makes you better. If someone holds you accountable and they're only doing what's best for you. Well, again, words, you also got to watch what you say too. I mean, I don't think McDaniel really said anything wrong. He was praising him, but also saying, you're really talented. You can't have this happen. Now, again, that was a tough game to, for all the Dolphins players because, the weather conditions and against the Chiefs. Yeah, it was a tough game. But yeah, with Mike McDaniel, him saying that he wants Tyreek Hill to do well, and it shouldn't be taken personal. And Tyreek Hill didn't take it personal because he knows that his coach wants him to do well ultimately, and that's why he said what he said. He's not bashing him because, he thinks Tyreek Hill is an inferior player, but he's trying to motivate his players. That's what he's doing, and that's what you want. You want to have a coach that does that. Again, at the same time, also be careful with what you say. But it's nice. It's refreshing when you have a player say, "Listen, I want to have that. I want to have a coach that, holds me accountable." And again, also against the Chiefs. And again, I think Tyreek Hill still, faces that question of, do you miss playing for the Chiefs? And I think he says, I think a part of him still does. Because, I mean, you go from Patrick Mahomes to Tua Tagovailoa, and big drop-off. No offense to Tua, but it's a drop-off. And, the Chiefs, since Tyreek Hill left, I mean, Tyreek Hill definitely didn't expect the Chiefs to do what they've done and win, back-to-back Super Bowls without him. He definitely didn't expect that. But that's what happened. And to be honest, when it comes to the Dolphins and Tua, I mean, I don't really expect them to get to that point. Because unfortunately for them, Tua's going to hold them back. And they could be giving Tua a big contract. And kind of would be a mistake. Because I don't think he's a guy that's going to get you to that point. Now, again, put up solid numbers last year. And with Tyreek Hill, yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch that offense. I mean, you see the start that they got off to. You thought, wow, I mean, this team is going to be, with Tua healthy, I mean, this team could be a team that goes all the way. But that was not the case. And again, it was a bad matchup in every aspect going up against the Chiefs in the first round. Especially with the weather conditions. I mean, they had no chance. They had no chance. And, now going into 2024, I think it's a big year for them. The division's a little weaker with the Bills, and some of their subtractions, but, they're still going to be fighting for the division. You also got the Jets, who are going to have something to say and trying to redeem themselves and hoping for a healthy season with Aaron Rodgers. So it's a 3-team race there. And then you got the Patriots, who are, in 4th place. That's what's going to end up happening. So it's a big year for the Dolphins. And, Tyreek Hill, don't know how much longer he's going to be playing, because I know we already were hearing about retirement. I mean, right now he's at the top of his game, but he could be retiring at some point very soon. So Dolphins got to do what they can with their team and try to get there, which for me, I don't think that's going to happen. But you never know. And when it comes to him missing the Chiefs, I mean, yeah, I think, like I said, he probably does, but he's not going to admit it. But he wanted to get paid. That's why he went to Miami. He actually the Jets were a team that was in on him too. But ultimately, the Dolphins were able to get him. So, yeah, I mean, how different things would have been if he went to the Jets. But yeah, and the Chiefs, they haven't skipped a beat since he left. Again, they've had some struggles. Last year particularly, they had struggles. But I felt like they struggled. I mean, like the first year without him, they were able to adapt and they were fine. And Mahomes won the MVP. But it's just then in 2023 they struggled a lot. But again, they ended up winning back-to-back Super Bowls. So it doesn't matter. But I don't think people should be saying that the Chiefs miss Tyreek Hill because they've won without him. So, but yeah, Tyreek Hill, I mean, he embraces that accountability from his head coach. And I think Mike McDaniel is a good coach, but, now you're going into your 3rd season. Let's win a playoff game. I think you have to do that. So, we'll see what ends up happening. But I expect the Dolphins to be in the mix, of course, and, be a playoff team. But, I mean, Could they win a playoff game? Yeah, but I don't really expect anything more than that. Because, again, I just feel like with the quarterback that they have, I feel like that's ultimately what's going to hold them back. So, but, yeah, let me know what you guys think about what Tyreek Hill had to say. What are your expectations for the Dolphins going into 2024? And, yeah, so that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to tune into the other shows. Had some crazy NBA playoff games last night. The Knicks and the Sixers was going crazy over that, rooting for the Knicks. And then, of course, I did stay up. I wasn't watching it very closely, but I had the Lakers Nuggets game on in the background. I did, pay close attention to it towards the end when the Nuggets came back. And then Jamal Murray hit the game winner. And, Kevin Harlan is one of my favorite broadcasters. Like his call for that. And Mike Breen, I listened to Mike Breen's call for the Knicks game. I didn't on MSG. I didn't listen to the TNT broadcast of it. I did, but of course, had to watch TNT for the Lakers game. But Kevin Harlan, like I said, one of my favorite broadcasters. I mean, both calls for the game winners. There was still some time on the clock with the Knicks game, but still, like Mike Breen's call for the DiVincenzo go-ahead 3, and then Kevin Harlan's call on the game winner for the Nuggets, Jamal Murray's shot. I mean, those were great calls. And like I said, Kevin Harlan is one of my favorite broadcasters. Mike Breen's up there too. I mean, Mike Breen's one of the best broadcasters currently as well. I don't know. I've always been more of a Kevin Harlan guy, also because he does football too. But yeah, those were great calls. And make sure, but basically, from what I'm saying is, make sure to tune into the basketball podcast today to get Nelson's takes on the games from yesterday. And yeah, make sure to tune into the other shows as well. Get their takes on everything that's happening in the world of sports. And yeah, so with that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn it.